With it being 7 o'clock, I'd like to call the Cecil Township Board of Supervisors conditional use hearing to order Tuesday, July 7, 2026, to consider the conditional use application for the Cool Valley development. Let the record show Supervisors Schifoni, Fisher, Egizio, Barney, and participating by phone, Supervisor Tom Cassiola. At this time, we'll like to swear in anybody giving testimony. Even if you think you might give testimony, raise your right hand and be sworn in. Okay, the conditional use application illustrative site plan pursuant to section 240-34 of the Township Zoning Ordinance for Cool Valley Development located along Interstate I-79, Lewicki Road, and Morganza Road in the C1 General Commercial and Business Park Plan Development, Zoning District, and the Interstate Highway Plan Development Overlay District. Parcel ID numbers 140-00-00-0025-00, parcel 140-014-00-00-0021-000, parcel number 140-014-00-00-0001901, parcel number 140-014-00-00-0029-00, parcel number 140-014-00-00-0008-03, parcel number 140-014-00-00-0005-00, parcel number 140-010-00-00-0009-00, parcel number 140-014-00-00-0004-00, parcel number 140-014-00-00-0003-00. The proposed uses are commercial, medical, multifamily, residential, and townhouse development. The applicant is Cool Valley Development Company, LLC. As a preliminary, is there anyone who is a party objector to this development? No, okay. Okay, at this time, we would like the applicant to give his presentation.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Haynes, and I'm with Cool Valley Development Company.
That microphone does not work.
Oh.
So for the recording, so
Oh,
people
okay.
have to stand. That was the issue yesterday. People were saying that you couldn't hear. Oh, it does. It works. Okay. Then maybe it was fixed. But last night that was the issue.
I can stand here. Is that better?
Yeah, it just picks up in the audio recording what's needed for the record. Thank you. Sorry.
I will stand right here. Haynes. John is John. Pop it open. Well, ladies and gentlemen and council, Cool Valley Development is, I can say it's a long time coming, and we're pleased to present our conditional use plan and to seek your approval. I wanted to start off by just giving you a quick highlight of what the development looks like, and then we're going to get into what the site plan is going to look like, and then I'm going to hand it over to Keith, who's our engineer for the project, and he's going to be giving you a little more detail on from traffic flows to what the site's going to entail, and to give you, as I said, just a little more detail. So to start off with, this is the Cool Valley development right here. As you can see, This would be the South Point interchange. I don't know if anybody, oh, you have it on your computers. I'll turn around. So this is the South Point interchange right here. And you can see here, this is Morganza McMurray right here. And then this right here is a Cool Valley development. We are going to be doing 3 intersections for improvements for the development. The first intersection will be McMurray Morganza, which is right down here, which is very close to completion. We just need to finish up some bidding and getting our HOP for the right-of-way. The second is going to be the improvements done right here at this intersection, which is Morganza-Lewicki, which will be the main entrance into the development. And as you can see, that goes down and turns into a roundabout. And then the final, which is right now under the county's working on the improvements, is right here at South Point Morganza, which is going to be will be improvements made there. And as you can see, the majority of the improvements, starting at McMurray Morganza, it's going to be a light, so you don't have to stand in line waiting for that stop sign forever any longer. And there will be a little road widening there. Lewicki Morganza, as you can see there, is just going to be a road widening. Will be 4 lanes where you can see the red. And then, as you can see right here on South Point Boulevard, coming off the highway, that road is going to be widened as well, coming into Old Morganza. And the project itself, as you can see when you come down Lewicki, so those are the improvements, as I said. As you come down Lewicki from Morganza, going into the project, you're going to be able to, you can see that it goes into a roundabout, which will feed off into the development. And so I just wanted to give you just an overall view, an aerial view of what the entirety of the project will look like. So if we go to the site plan, my trusty engineer here. When we go to the site plan, you can see that our primary use, our intended use, is going to be retail. We have an apartment complex and some townhomes. Which you can't see yet. All right. So. Bear with us 1 second. So as you can see, this is the site. So as we were showing before, this is Lewicki, going into the roundabout. And then you can see the various pads. Now, the layouts here are just for exhibit purposes. This is not exactly how it will look or what it's going to be, but it is. The uses will clearly be within what the conditional uses have been approved for. But this is just to give you an idea of what it could look like. And as you can see, we're looking at, potentially large box stores here. And you can see where we have the apartment complex as well as the townhomes. And that's pretty much our development. Like I said, we are very excited to, it's been a long time coming, and we're excited to finally be able to get started. And we hope that you share our vision and approve our conditional use. And I'm going to hand it to Keith to give a little more detail on what we have inside the park there and the traffic.
Thank you, John. My name is Keith Vassis. You need the last name spelled. That's V as in Victor, A-S-A-S. And I'm the engineering director for GAI Engineering from Pittsburgh. I'm going to bring up a different drawing right now. It shows the color coding, so I wanted to start at that one. So this is a site plan. It was submitted called the illustrative site plan. We have some color coding here that I want to address first. So John showed the different pads. Describe briefly the pads that were going to be developed. So the areas that we're showing, the pink is more residential. So in that area, it's the combination residential land use category. That's a permitted use within the ordinance. In the area that looks more blue, the shading's not real bright on this drawing, but I think you can see it. The pink is up in this area. This is the pink area with more of the residential type land uses. These are apartments, these are townhomes, and then coming down this road, there's townhomes there too. So the area that's more the blue shading, that's the business use category, and that's also a category that's a permitted use within the ordinance, within the Interstate Highway Plan Development District. I want to just describe the plan in more detail. So Morganza Road, which is located right here, you can see from the red dot, and then Lewicki Road coming into the site. So as John said, we have a roundabout right here, and then there's site roads from that point. So the roundabout has 4 legs that come off the roundabout. This leg would go down to the PennDOT maintenance shed. This leg will go up to a pad, that's pad A. So basically it's organized pads A through I. So pad A starts over here off that leg of the roundabout, and then we go to B to C to D to E to F to G to H to I. So it's just in a clockwise orientation there, the different pads. So like I said, pad A is off the one leg of the roundabout. The other leg of the roundabout comes in from Lewicki Road, on Lewicki Road, and then we come into the site. So there's one road that goes back through the development, and it gives access to several building pads right here in the middle of the site. And then there's a intersection here, and another road that goes back through the site, goes through the residential area, comes and crosses over the gas line. So that's a gas line that runs through the site, and that's going to stay there. It crosses over the gas line, goes through the area with townhomes, and comes the whole way down to Morganza Road. So that's the basic layout of the site plan. The site is 216 acres. One thing to note is there's approximately 36 acres that we're not disturbing at all. There you can see we're preserving streams and wetlands around the perimeter of the property. So there's a large area that's not going to be disturbed on this side. And then in addition, there's a large area that's not going to be disturbed here on that side of the site plan. That's by pad G. This pointer isn't working that great, but I'm trying to make it work. There we go. Okay, so you can see all the acreage out of the 216. It's going to be untouched. That's 36 acres. In addition to that, the shops and other areas on the site, they're going to be about 74 acres. Pad impervious is going to be about 60 acres. Open space, there's an additional amount of open space because we never develop the entire pad. That's 17 acres. The roads themselves are 9 acres, and the basins are 12 acres. So I'll just describe the basins related to the pads. So these areas that you can see graded in are basins. So if you remember this plan from the beginning, it originally had more regionalized basins, but now the basins are more associated with each pad. So there's a basin here, there's a basin right here, there's a basin over here, and we're actually infiltrating a lot more water too. So part of the stormwater management, we infiltrate water into the ground, so it's not all running off the site and causing any issues. And then any water that's not going to infiltrate, then we use detention basins to detain the water to control the peak flow and volume, so you don't notice any difference in the runoff from the site or the streams. A couple things I wanted to point out, and I'm going to go to a different exhibit. It's still the site plan, but it gives some good information as far as some distances that different things are in relation to the property. So one thing we've been doing is we've been having some informational discussions. We were over in Maple Ridge. We did talk to the fire chief, the police chief, so there's been various discussions going on with different people that have, you know, that want to have input into the project. So the one thing I wanted to point out here is we reserved a lot of commercial uses in the areas near Interstate 79. So when you come into the site, you know, most of those uses are closer to the interstate. And then where we knew there was residential, that's where the residential development was going to occur. So residential development here near properties that are along Merganza, and residential development here on the Maple Ridge area. So one dimension I wanted to point out, if you see this townhome right here, it's in Maple Ridge. Until you even get to the parking lot, to this pad, there's about 300 feet. I can't exactly read the exact dimension, but I think that's close to 300 feet right there. So if you think of a football field, you know, there's going to be some good separation. We're preserving the stream area and all this woods on the Maple Ridge side. On this side of the property, the townhome here in Maple Ridge to the townhome that's going to be proposed in this location, that dimension I believe is 224 feet. So you think in relation to what do my backyards look like, what's going to be next to me. So there's a decent amount of separation we try to keep between the residential properties, and we try to keep everything residential near residential. And then this dimension here from this townhome up over the hill to the building, that's about another football field. So you think in terms of 300 feet and, you know, how far some of these things are away. And this is going to be, you know, vegetated hillside similar to what it is now. So I wanted to point out some of those features related to the plan. In addition, on this side of Maple Ridge, we could have had these townhomes a little bit closer, and the ordinance allows us to do that, but we also added another 50-foot buffer. Now that buffer's undisturbed, so not only are we trying to match up residential with residential, but we're providing a 50-foot buffer where no trees will be cut, no grading will occur, so that'll all stay the way it is. And then it gradually starts to slope down and away. So if you're out there in Maple Ridge, you can think about the tree line, and I know there's some fire pits and things out there. So that's kind of where the property line is. So we're adding another 50 feet of undisturbed area before we start any grading. So that's the shaded area that is shown coming down this side. So those are some of the dimensional things I wanted to point out, because I know those things are important to people who live around the development. I'd like to touch on some of the road improvements. So on the site plan, we always included this enlargement of the Lewicki Merganza intersection. So there was a traffic study related to this and the improvements. John described the general location of where the improvements are. I added this enlargement to the plan. GAI is doing the design for that intersection. There was a traffic study done. The traffic study has been updated. The engineer doing the traffic study did get new counts, so they went out there recently and got new counts of all the existing traffic. We also made a submission to PennDOT, and before that submission was accepted for our work, it's all tied back to the traffic study. So the South Point Boulevard, the Lewicki Merganza intersection, and the McMurray Merganza intersection, those are all improvements that were required for the traffic study, or through the traffic study, so everything flows well after the development is built. So when we did make our submission, PennDOT required a review of the traffic study to confirm all the information in there was still valid before they proceeded with the design we were doing, which was Lewicki Merganza. And PennDOT approved, the traffic study is still being valid, and the improvements is still being valid, and there's a process now where they're going to be reviewing the designs. So that's going to get underway here in the near future. So I did want to point that out. But back to the, what's actually going to happen at these intersections. So Lewicki, if you're coming into Lewicki, there's going to be 2 lanes coming in. If you're coming out of Lewicki, there's going to be 2 left turn lanes out and a right turn lane out. If you're coming down Merganza from the South Point, or from South Point Boulevard intersection, there's going to be a through lane and a right turn lane coming into Lewicki. Going up towards South Point Boulevard, there's going to be 2 lanes going up that way. In the other direction, going south on Merganza, there's going to be a through lane. Coming up Merganza towards Lewicki from the south, there's going to be a left turn lane in and a through lane going through. So all these lanes and these improvements all comply with the improvements that were required by PennDOT in the traffic study. One other thing I did want to show you too, I wanted to show you some information about the improvements themselves. Okay, so I know it's in this document. We did this document too as part of the project to provide information for the Planning Commission and this board. So those are the improvements that I just described on Merganza and Lewicki. This is McMurray, and they're all going to be signalized. This is McMurray, so the simple way to think about this is, you know, you got 2 lanes coming in all directions, and there's going to be turn lanes added. So there'll be turn lanes, there'll be a turn lane coming down Merganza added, a turn lane each way going on McMurray. So those are improvements there. This is the South Point Boulevard intersection. So this area over here would be heading down towards Lewicki. So you can see there's going to be 2 through lanes, there's going to be 2 left turn lanes, and then there's going to be a through lane. So that's coming up from Lewicki up towards South Point Boulevard. And then the boulevard will have 2 through lanes going out. This lane will be through in a turn lane. This will be a right turn lane. And then in the other direction, coming down towards South Point Boulevard from the north, you'll have a left turn lane, 2 through lanes, a right turn lane, and then going in the opposite direction will be 2 through lanes. So you can see the improvements that are going to take place there. And then there's also going to be improvements near Grudovich Road. So there's turn lanes here that kind of coincide with the turn lanes up above. So this intersection is going to have the 2 lanes coming up, the left turn lane, 2 lanes going down. And then when you get past Grudovich Road up towards South Point Boulevard, that coincides with the 2 left turn lanes and the through lane that I mentioned in this exhibit right here, coming up from Lewicki. So that's how the intersection will look with Grudovich Road. And like I said, all these improvements comply with the traffic study. There's been PennDOT reviews, and these improvements will it'll allow all the traffic to move. Like when we do improvements, we're always looking at level of service A and B. If anybody here is familiar with like roads that start to get congested, when you get to a level C, you start seeing some impact, but you know, we're typically required to have improvements done at a higher level so the traffic flows freely with the new development. And this is all done at peak hour, so there's going to be times where not all these lanes are going to have many cars on them, but you know, peak hour, there's Saturday peak hours, there's Friday peak hours, you know, weekday and weekend peak hours. So improvements are always done with the peak hours is the design method. I do have a table, which you may have seen with the various lot development, and this is a projection. Some of these numbers were presented at the Planning Commission. We actually think at this point there's only going to be about 225 apartments. I know at one time we presented, up to 265 apartments, but we think that's actually going to be around 225 now. And Pad E, which is the townhouses near Maple Ridge, we actually think that's going to be around 70, 73 now. But, as we develop the design, some minor things could change, but this is a basic development table of what the lot size is. And that lot size is in the first column. The actual acreage, it's going to be the pad for development is over here in this column. So you can see how when we do have lots, there's slopes and grades and ponds and different things. So, you end up with less development than what the actual lot size is, which also provides a little bit of buffer around your development. So I won't go through each one unless you really want to, but there's a lot of retail, there's some medical office here, there's townhomes, there's apartments. So this chart shows a potential for the development, and anything that would be done or modified from this chart, it's going to be in compliance with the zoning district and what the permitted uses are. Utilities, we do have will serve letters from the utilities. So there's actually 3 sewer authorities that we're working with. There's Cecil Township, there's North Strabane, and there's also Cannonsburg, Houston. So we do have will serve letters from all the utilities. We have that too from water and the different utilities. We have the service letters. And as this moves forward, it's still in the early stages, but there's a lot of coordination and paperwork, and there's a lot of review by the utilities to make sure their improvements will provide the level of service that the development needs. But we currently do have will serve letters from utilities. I'm going to be here to answer any detailed questions. I hope that was a decent overview. And next steps beyond the conditional use hearing that we're here for tonight, we're going to need permits from PennDOT. That's still in review, and there's, that process will continue, and we'll get highway occupancy permits for all the intersections. The township will have to keep reviewing and give land development approval. So, that's another process that we need to go through. So when you see a site plan, and this is for the benefit of the audience, you see a site plan with the development, and it looks very detailed, but there's a lot of detailed plans. We could end up with 100 plans for this development that shows all the details related to it. So there's more process to this. This is mostly to present, the site plan and what the uses are. We'll be getting permits from the DEP, a NIPD's permit, and a JPA. And then, like I said, that utility coordination will go along with all the permits too. They're not actually permits, but they're coordination. So all the infrastructure is in place to serve the development. John, if you think I missed anything, if you want to add anything?
I think that was
Hope it wasn't too detailed or too little, but.
I think that was pretty thorough. So, and we would like to open up for questions, but yes, like I said, we're here to seek approval for the development for the conditional use. And as Keith said, is that as the development goes on, each individual parcel, each individual tenant, and will have to come before the board to get a permit to build. So the process clearly doesn't end here; it will be ongoing. So if we have any questions, we'll love to take them.
Okay. Does the board have any comments at this time?
Yes.
Go ahead, Darlene.
Yes, I do. The peak hour traffic at full build-out are funded by Merganza and Lewicki improvements, sized for it, and will the road work be done before the occupancy?
Yeah, so the road work, before any of the development occurs on the site, the road work will be complete that coincides with whatever's required for the development.
Okay, now who's going to be responsible for this here peak hour traffic to really get your hands wrapped around all of the traffic? Because right now, the traffic is horrendous coming off of South Point Boulevard, coming off of Merganza, going on coming out of South Point onto Merganza on the Cansburg side. Also coming out of South Point onto the Merganza side above Hendersonville. Sometimes that traffic is backed up all the way to the intersection or the red light by Klinger Road. What's this going to do to more traffic in the area? And are they going to make Merganza Road a 4-lane highway?
So I'll address just real quickly the uses. We have decades of data, the type of traffic that each type of development generates. So we have a long history of knowing how much traffic gets generated from these developments. And then there's a traffic study done that takes that data and it looks at how much traffic is going to be generated, all the existing traffic in the area, and then that's the generation of the traffic for the traffic study. So all those things go into determining how much traffic is going to be there. Then the engineers look at a distribution of the traffic. So they study and look at all the different things that are developed in the area. So they look at residential uses, they look at uses within a certain region of the development, and they start determining, okay, traffic's going to come from all these different directions from different uses. So they'd look at ones that would come regionally to a development like this. They'd look at local traffic that could come from residential areas. So then the engineers put all that distribution into the traffic study. And then when they get to that point, then they start looking at the improvements that are needed to make all that traffic flow easily where there's not delays. So the traffic engineers then start looking at what the improvements need to be and design them so all the traffic flows smoothly. So they use that process. All that information is also reviewed by PennDOT. Obviously, if a development takes place and things don't work well after the fact, the development's done, the improvements are done, so PennDOT would be the ones that would be required to make improvements after that. So they review it very thoroughly and make sure all the improvements are going to handle the traffic appropriately. And the township also reviews it too. So there's engineers from the state, engineers local, reviewing all this information to make sure the traffic's going to flow appropriately and there's not going to be delays. And your other question, there is no current plan to make Merganza 4-lane the entire length. It wasn't an improvement that met the requirements to have happened for this development, so it's not going to be 4-lane the entire length. There's sections that are going to be multiple lanes, but not the entire way down Merganza.
So then, in other words, the 4 lanes are going to be funneling into 2 lanes, going to Cansburg, going the other direction. I mean, it just seems like there's going to be an awful lot of traffic based on what's there today.
Mm-hmm. And the models and the studies and all the engineering and everything that was put into it shows that flow is going to be smooth on Merganza Road. And they did look at all the existing traffic and all the proposed traffic.
Okay. And you
like I said, there's the studies and all the designs are also being reviewed by PennDOT, so you have that extra assurance that somebody that would be responsible for the traffic when it's done is actually reviewing it and making sure the designs are appropriate.
Okay. You mentioned the water, sewage, and stormwater capacity by will-serve letters. And who pays for any upgrades if this comes about?
The developer does.
Okay.
Yeah, so the development itself, improvements, they have to take the steps to raise funds to pay for everything.
So none of this is going to come back on us taxpayers?
Right, none of it's being funded with township money.
What about the overcrowding of schools and what kind of fiscal impact are we going to have on a new tax base versus a cost of services and schools in our township.
A lot of it's retail, but there is some residential. I don't know, John, if you guys
Yeah,
did any studies or anything related to that.
I mean, I don't think we can really comment on, you know, the impact from. Yes, sir. I'm not sure if we can really comment on, you know, the direct impact of, you know, what's going to happen within the schools. But, you know, our goal and our hope is that, you know, we're able to, you know, coexist and meld into the community, and, you know, if there are families and there are, you know, sufficient size that, you know, they start to go to the school and they add to the community.
Okay.
What about the roads inside of the development? Will they be kept private?
So, so our goal right now is that if you want, I can use the laser here. Sure. So our hope right now, and clearly we're still finalizing design, but it's exactly right now, from here all the way to there, we're going to the HOA here will maintain for the houses. You know, once we finalize designs and we understand where everything's going to go, you know, we would love the opportunity to come back to the council and, you know, and discuss, but, you know, clearly we're open to, you know, whatever, you know, the council decides.
I want to make it abundantly clear right now that I will not vote for this plan if there is any request for these roads to become the responsibility of the township. The township residents cannot and should not bear the burden of the cost of this retail development with their taxes. And you and I both know that the tax generated either through liquid fuel money or through regular taxes will not come close to the cost of repairs on these roads or winter maintenance on these roads. So I have no interest in even considering any sort of plan that would ask the township to take over these roads.
Yeah,
And you and I both know there are options. There are other options to explore. You can explore a CAM, common area maintenance. You can explore other ways. It happens in retail developments across the nation.
Yeah, so our primary goal was to keep all of our options open. As I said, and we're not wedded to one design or to one outcome. We want the best outcome that's going to work best for the development and best for the township. So as of right now, we are not wedded to any single one.
The best thing for the township would be for you to consider a CAM or for you to maintain ownership, and I would seriously encourage you to explore that option before coming back to this board.
John, I have safety concerns. This access road running through this residential area, what is your plan to not allow retail traffic to encroach and go through this residential area?
So we're going to be putting up security gates, fob gates. So, you know, again, I don't think this exhibit doesn't show it, but
On that side, by the gas line.
by the gas line right up there. So there will be security entrance. So the only way you can get in and out will be with a fob. And we're going to be supplying emergency services with fobs as well, so that they can come in and out at will, or not at will, but when needed.
Okay, yeah, because that's the last thing I'm sure any homeowner, resident would want all that traffic going by their house. It would be major safety issues.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Have you completed the land conveyance that you needed?
For PennDOT?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we actually, and I have, where's Jess? Yes, so Jess is our lobbyist, and actually we just had word that DGS's solicitor and PennDOT solicitor have met and they've agreed, and we are going to go through the legislative process. And Jess, if you want to add anything to that, you can.
No, basically you have to come to the microphone and speak, sorry.
Jessica Vogliano, I'll spell that for you. It's V as in Victor, O-G-L-I-A-N-O, with Salvo Strategies. Basically, we're just working currently with PennDOT and DEGS regarding this parcel, like John said. Discussions to date have been positive, and we're just going to continue coordinating with the agencies as the process moves forward. As of right now, that's the only update that I have that I can give.
It's my understanding that it's a process that's done once a year or so, and it just happened, so.
So, yeah, we're gonna get part of it with the omnibus bill, and we're gonna try to get it on, as, I won't say an amendment, but as an amendment to something else. But, we have that in process, we're gonna work through that.
What's the time frame for the development?
Sorry?
What's the time frame?
Yeah, so our hope is that once we start to clear the land, it'll take us between 9 months to a year to do the excavating, and then, as the lots start to get sold and develop, it'll depend on, when they're sold, but, probably another year or so after that. So probably 2.5 years, all in, 3
When do you
years.
plan to put the shovel in the ground, though? Like, when does the 9 months to a year start?
Our goal is to hopefully start at the end of this year. If we get approval for the conditional use, that will open up us to be able to start to pitch to other, how can I put it, tenants or builders to come in and look at, build their retail sites here. So our goal is to get, dirt in the ground by late December, early January.
Okay,
How far along are you on your NPDS permit? Is that,
So on the NPDS permit, we have all the infiltration testing done, which is a big task. So we initially went out with, it was over 100 infiltration tests. It met the requirements of the DEP. And then after we picked the location with the best infiltration, and we went back and tested more for the specific infiltration basins themselves, so there was more testing done there. We have all the calculations done, all the ponds designed. So at this point, we're gonna have another meeting with the DEP, and then we're gonna proceed with finishing up the design of some of the stormwater pipes, making the final design on them, and then starting the application and finishing that itself. So it could potentially, the permit itself could potentially go in very soon. Then we go through the review process, but that's how far along we are. As you know, this permit has been into DEP before. We got comments. We changed the design to comply with all the comments we got in the past. So depending on how the reviews go, we could have permits by the end of the year.
okay, I just was curious, so you're in process?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they can't really move a spoonful of dirt until they have that permit?
Okay, any other comments from the board?
Yes, what about PennDOT now? The right-of-way for PennDOT, being that they're up at Lewicki Road, and that's, Lewicki Road is a state road, and they're the one that widened it and everything. What about the interference with them?
With the salt bin,
That's what I just,
Oh.
that's what I asked about, was the land conveyance.
Pardon me?
That's what I asked about, which was the land conveyance, and they said, that's what she said, that they're under the process.
Okay.
When I asked about land conveyance, PennDOT owns the salt storage shed over there, so they have to give the land to the developer through a legislative process called land conveyance. And it takes about a year usually it's usually done once a year, and it takes about a year to accomplish. So that's why I was asking if it had been done yet. I don't think it will hold up the development anyway. I was just curious if it had been started.
So one thing the developer didn't touch on was the phased improvements of the traffic work.
I don't know that they can hear you, Dan. Is your microphone on?
Yeah, one thing that they didn't speak to was the phased improvement of the traffic. You want to talk about that and how PennDOT's kind of limiting the development and how that's going to occur?
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. So in the traffic study itself, to build out the entire development, the work needs to be done at all those intersections. However, some of the development can move forward, as improvements are finished. So for instance, obviously you'd want the improvements done at Lewicki and Merganza. So a certain amount of development can take place. The traffic study initially identified 100,000 square feet that could develop with just that one intersection. And that's the only one right now that I know of where it identified a certain amount of square footage that can be built with improvements. However, you know, those things can be identified further, but that's the only one I know of right now that was identified in the traffic study, was 100,000 square feet with the improvements at Merganza and the Wiki.
Okay, but the improvements at McMurray and Morganza are already underway, and it's anticipated they'll be completed by the time you bring anybody in here.
So as we complete, you know, further along with the development, each intersection. So McMurray was actually going to be done first, as you're aware, Dan.
Right.
And then Lewicki's going to get done, and then then the county's going to be doing South Point. And when they're going to start, that's a question.
Sure. So I just wanted everybody to be aware that the developer's gonna obviously take the dive and get this whole site ready, but they will be limited to what they can build until all of the improvements are in. So one of the things that we discussed at the Planning Commission was a condition on this development that it coincide with whatever PennDOT says related to amount of square footage that can be built on the site. That we put that same condition on. You can't build more than it's allowed according to PennDOT related to the traffic improvements, if that makes sense.
You just recommend it to be safe, or like since PennDOT's already saying that, is it duplicative for
Well,
us to say it
I
too?
just think that, you know, that everything is dependent upon the traffic improvements. And if there's gonna be any conditions applied to this, the recommendation was just to have the same conditions related to traffic that PennDOT does. That's all.
John, when you say the county, you're referring to the Washington County Redevelopment Authority? Is funding part of this project down at Merganza intersection? Would that be because of the bridge over Culvert, or?
Well, so as it stands now, we have multiple funding sources from the state, from the county, and so and we've divided it up per intersection.
Okay.
What about the exit for Lot D? How do those apartments, townhouses, what will be the corridor for them to get out, I guess? Will they be going down through Lot E? Will they have access to that, or are they gonna have to go back through the plan to get out?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure. We have to figure out the flow.
Okay.
I don't have an answer on that. It's going to be reviewed, and we'll figure out what's going to be the most efficient way to get it done for those tenants, because there will be.
It just seems like it's a tough thing, if you're gonna have a blockade where the gas line is.
Yeah, I mean, again, potentially let them have access to the gate. I'm not sure, but not that far along yet to be able to figure out what's going to be the most efficient.
Okay, any other comments from the board?
Just to comment that, this ordinance is very similar for this development is very similar to what goes on in the ST district, and that they're really here tonight to sort of lay out the land use potential for the site, and they've identified either business or the business land use category or the combination residential land use category. So that's really all the board is kind of looking at for an initial approval. And then they, as Keith has described, they will have to come in with subsequent approvals to do lots of things. So this isn't the last shot at this. This is just really the first step. So everybody's aware.
Okay,
So
thanks.
what is your intention tonight to walk away with?
Well, the illustrative site plan that they show in front of you is sort of the master plan, and they're looking for that master plan approval that identifies the uses that they want to put and where they want to put them on the property. Is that Gretchen, you? I don't want to-
Correct, yeah, this is an illustrative site plan approval, and tonight, actually, we're just holding the hearing.
Okay.
Right.
And the township will get to review the pads before they're sold.
Yeah, they'll come back in with individual subdivision plans to show, and land development plans to show all of that, yes.
This wasn't advertised as a special meeting, so therefore there cannot be any vote tonight. This is only a conditional use
Right.
hearing.
Correct, you're having the hearing tonight, neither completing the hearing or continuing the hearing depending.
Right.
And then you can vote at a future meeting and issue a written decision.
Anyone else on the board have any comments? Okay, at this time, we'd like to take comments from the floor. We ask that you could, if you could limit your time to 3 minutes as a courtesy to other ones that would like to speak. Please step to the microphone, state your name and address.
Ray Mazzoni, 286.
Hold on, is that working?
Ray Mazzoni, 286 Maple Ridge Drive. Mazzoni. Yeah, I have a few comments, especially their traffic situation. Now, they went and did a traffic study recently, which South Point is nowhere near the capacity it was 6 years ago. I mean, they could have done a traffic study in 2020 when nobody was on the road and would look great. So the traffic study they did recently isn't, I think, indicative of what it could have been back 6 years ago when South Point was at its probably highest capacity. Secondly, putting in intersections with multiple lanes going into 2 lanes doesn't make a lick of sense to me. I don't know who did their traffic study. It could have been the same people that did the Fort Pitt Bridge. Go down there sometime and see all these intersections coming together. The other issue is they're saying that there's trees on the other side of that stream. They're all gone already. Same thing on the other side of Maple Ridge on where they're developing the new properties. They came in there, I think, January, knocked up most of those trees out. There's probably only 15 feet of trees left.
You're saying there isn't a 50-foot undisturbed buffer there?
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, you're saying there is not a 50-foot undisturbed buffer?
I don't know what you're calling a buffer. I mean, they're gonna build the properties farther away, but the trees, you go come up Maple Ridge sometime, you'll see trees next to our parking lot there, but if you look through the trees, all those trees are gone over that other hillside.
That was an assurance they made to the township. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I can, so I think you're talking about the trees over here on this side of Maple Ridge.
Correct.
Yeah, so the trees
I'm
over
talking
here.
about the bank going down through the ravine, that
Right.
stream.
Right, so
All those trees are gone.
all these trees are gone over here.
Correct.
Yes.
But
And on
you're
the other
stand-
side of Maple Ridge, go across to where your property is, okay, they had people coming through there and they knocked out quite a few trees there also.
Back here.
But there's, now with the brush up, you can't really tell. But in the wintertime, you'll see there's no trees. You go maybe 15 feet past our property and there's no trees there.
I am going to come up and look. You're standing here and testifying on the record that you have not touched the 50-foot undisturbed buffer, correct?
Yes, our contractor came through and they said they measured off. Now, I didn't pace the whole way down, but they measured off 50 feet and it's 50 foot. So without actually going out and measuring it with a tape measure, I can assure you that it is 50.
I hope so, because that's an
that's-
assurance that,
Yep.
that is a demand that the township has been making for years
We respect
of this
that.
development, and you promised
Yes,
that there would
we
not
respected
be a tree touched within that 50-foot
Within
undisturbed
50
buffer.
feet of our property line. Yes, ma'am. That's exactly what we did.
I'm gonna come out and check that out.
Say 50 or 15?
50, 50.
Okay, well, I'll take a tape measure out there and measure it.
when our public works director gets back, we're gonna put on our boots and take a walk. So, yeah, I'll be up. We're gonna check that out, because that is a demand the township has made of this developer for years. This development was being considered for as long as I've been on this board, which is
And
13
we were
years.
surprised to see guys in yellow outfits going through with big chainsaws knocking trees down, all, for 2 or 3 days. The other issue is that intersection down near our intersection with Morganza. You have our street going on to Morganza. Across there's all clad, and then there's this intersection where they're dumping their development down. And what's the distance there from ours to yours? It wasn't like, what is it, 100 feet or something like that?
But just that,
Okay.
just so I am going to interrupt you for a hot second. So just to be clear, and now that it's coming back to you, this is the buffer. And as a
Right.
matter of fact, I did have a conversation with the tree cutter. So actually, I think it's actually more than 50 foot that we left to have a margin of error. So, I just wanted to clear that up for you for this area right
Okay.
here. But go ahead, talk up the distance between our exit onto Morgan.
Yeah, so there is separation distances here. That scale right there, it's a little hard to see, but that's 1 inch equals 150 feet. So Maple Ridge comes down right here, and that driveway right now is showing the location right there. I don't have a dimension on that, but
And in between there is all clad.
and all clad's right there. So it's a good question, and what's gonna happen here is this was added to the plan. There was a time point where there was emergency access requested, and this was added to the plan. And this would still be under study and design, so there's gonna be additional studies here to determine how much traffic could come down here before it caused congestion in this area. So there's, like Dan said a couple minutes ago, there's going to be more information brought back to the township, and that functioning of that is going to have to be proven. So there's only going to be enough traffic that comes down to this location that allows the road and all these driveways to function. What I can tell you right now is site distances were checked when you come down to this end of the road, and it meets site distance criteria. And then there is dimensional criteria of driveways near each other. So some of those things were already checked, but further study needs to be done to determine the appropriate amount of traffic that could come to this intersection without causing any, unnecessary congestion. So there's going to be additional work done to determine those things for that point.
What if you determine that the number of townhouses that you put there, the traffic from the townhouses is too much for that access road?
Yeah, so I think it could always be an emergency access. And a couple years ago, I just got involved with the project, and I came to the meeting where they were actually mentioning about emergency access. So that could always be emergency access. However, there is a limit on the cars. We can't just build a driveway and say, okay, now it's unlimited for the number of cars that would come down here. So that's why at this location right now, there's a cul-de-sac shown and there's a gate shown. So John mentioned earlier about how much traffic really could come down here. Is it this? Is it some of this? Is there a limit here that needs to be defined? There is a limit that needs to be defined. Obviously, the entire development cannot just come down this road onto Merganza. So there's additional engineering and work that has to be done to determine how that's going to function.
I understand that. You didn't answer the question. So the question is so that second set of townhouses, so I can't see, Lot E, what if the determination is that the townhouses in that section for Lot E can't all come down to that intersection? If they have key fobs for both exits, because one's an emergency exit, you can't say okay, every other house can go down on Tuesday and every other house can come down on Wednesday. Like, that's not realistic. So then do you shut that off completely and make it emergency access only, in which case then you're forcing all of those people to come back through the,
So we feel confident that we should be fine with the townhomes, which is why we put the gate where it is right now. And then we're waiting for, our study with PennDOT and the review from PennDOT to be fully inclusive for the apartments. So, that's why we have the gate where it is right now.
so you're saying that you're confident that those townhomes in Lot E will be fine going out that exit. It is the apartments that you are concerned will trigger it.
That's where we stand right now.
Kevin, you're agreeing with that? Okay.
And like I said, it has to be studied, but it seemed to be a reasonable location at the current time, so all that has to be determined.
But you're asking us to approve this master plan, and part of this master plan is that emergency exit, because the master plan includes those townhomes. So if we say, yes, we're okay with this, and then you come back to us and say, whoops, we were wrong, we can't have all these townhomes exiting out this back entrance or back exit. So this is emergency exit only, and we're forcing everybody to come out the retail. Like, that's not what this board wanted.
Yeah, it's not going to be just, and Keith can concur, it's not going to be just it will be, the townhomes will exit. That's why the exit is there. We'll exit there. And if we need to make adjustments to do so, we'll do so. We don't believe that we're that far off from where we are right now. We do believe that we have the room, but to be safe and to be conservative, that's why we put the gate where it is right now. Now, if, I don't want to speak before we know the answer, because we don't. But our goal is to include the apartments and the townhomes, and we think that they should fit. We're hoping that they fit, but we don't know the answer to that. So the answer is that townhomes down, we feel comfortable that we're going to be able to do it, and we'll make adjustments if necessary. Apartments down,
No.
would
I think Supervisor Spony brought it up earlier, and it's a valid concern. Like, if you're, like, for us, when you put residential at the back of a retail development, and I don't know what kind of retail you're going to have going there, but if it gets busy during Christmas, you're going to have 500 angry people in our meeting room screaming at us because they can't get to and from, because there are townhomes on this plan outside of the apartments and to and from their townhomes into their apartments screaming at us, why did we approve this? So, like, I don't know how you're asking us to approve this without knowing for certain how that group of people are going to exit.
Yeah, so I think that, worst case scenario, you said Tuesday, Wednesday, or, we give one people. The other option could be that, the townhomes, all townhomes get key fobs. Again, we need to want to figure out and understand exactly, what we can do. We are confident that we can get those townhomes, and we feel pretty good about the apartments, but we want to make sure, and I don't want to make representations to the board until we have, full.
But you're asking for our definitive approval. So, like, I can't say I feel pretty good about my vote. You're
No.
asking us to definitively answer it.
Well, we're not here for the traffic. I mean, all we're looking for today, or, for a meeting today, is to say that the uses here, right? From the retail to the kind of just the uses. I mean, for the road plans and things, this is not at the final stage, and we're sort of like at a chicken before the egg situation, right? With this, and we've been here a couple of times, and I realize that we haven't been complete before, but it's hard for us to keep on moving forward if we don't know, does this work? Can we do this? You see what I'm saying? And so we want to make this as easy for the council as possible to show you this is what we want to do. This is, and then we're going to work. We've been, wanting to work with the council to find out exactly, to find out what the solutions are as we move forward for certain aspects. And
So-
go ahead.
I can only speak for myself, but I can tell you that I would not vote for a plan that has any sort of residential living that doesn't have an access that can go, like, a different way outside the retail. But I also don't think that we need to burden the residents in Maple Ridge or the people coming in and out of All-Clad. So maybe that's an adjustment to the number of townhomes or apartments or whatever, but you're asking us to approve the use without telling us how people would actually access this use. It's like saying, here's an island, approve the island, we'll figure out how to get there later.
And we will be back before you for the townhomes, right, and for the apartments. So we'll have, I mean, we're not gonna be able to, once you approve this, we can't go and build anything, right? We're gonna be back before you for the houses, for the apartments, and we'll have all of our,
I understand that, but you also know this could be used against us if we approve the illustrative site plan, and then you come back and we say, wait a second, this doesn't look right, and you say, wait a second, you approved the site plan.
What are your thoughts, Dan?
Yeah.
I would just recommend, the plan indicates that they are providing access, to the townhouses to Morganza Road. I would just predicate it on a condition being added to the plan, that this plan, if approved, must have access for parcel E to Morganza Road.
And parcel D.
And then if it changes, I'm
D.
gonna
Wait, I
tell
almost
you, this
opened your
plan's gonna change.
Parcel
multiple
E and D.
times. And the ordinance, and it's similar to other plans like South Point and other things change over time.
Dan, they're saying they can't hear you.
Yeah, things change over time depending upon market conditions. This wouldn't change because it's townhouses, like it is what it is. You put a condition on here, but if they don't observe that condition when they come back in, then they have to revise their plan and revisit this thing before that happens. I mean, that's really what, that's what conditions are. And if they're being wishy-washy about this one, which I'm not calling you wishy-washy, but you are a little bit.
I don't have an answer. I don't want to say.
Well, but you're representing a plan that shows the connection. So I
Right.
think that the board's saying, okay, if you make the connection and it gives people from the townhouses access to Morganza, then they're okay with it. So I think that would have to be a condition that sounds like it's a condition the board wants, not what I want, but it's a condition the board wants.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. I would think that would have to be a condition, speaking for myself,
Me too.
that we would have to have that in there. I don't see a way to safely get people down onto the road, like he had brought up, going down and dumping them right next to Maple Ridge 100 feet away. It's just an accident waiting to happen. If you use that as an emergency exit, that's different, possibly to have some, other means of exit for the residential side of the plan would absolutely have to happen.
So what I'm hearing the board say is the board wants this to be an access point, a fully operational access point for parcel E. And
Yeah, it would be D and E in my book.
Mine
I mean,
too.
that would just be me looking at it.
D and E, okay.
It makes sense there.
Okay, getting back to
Sorry.
Mr. Mazzoni.
Yeah, I have a question on this Key Fob Road. You're saying the HOA is gonna be responsible for this? All right, what if the HOA gets so many complaints from their residents, I gotta wait for a key fob every time I come to this gate, and they decide to get rid of the gate?
They won't be able to.
They won't be allowed to do that? Okay, I could just see, a lot of complaints from the residents.
Well,
that
the
are-
residents will have a key fob, almost like a garage door opener.
Yeah, I got that part. I'm just saying, are they gonna be committed to that?
They
So
have
that
to.
they can never get rid of that gate?
Yes.
Because, if they have it at the beginning of their plan, and 5 years later, they decide they don't want it.
That's not, they wouldn't
If
be
that's
able
how
to.
they would move forward, and that would be the exit, they would have to be committed to that, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
I will go out and measure where those trees were, and I'll
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Turbanic, Turbanic. I live at 260 Maple Ridge Drive. I'm also the current president of the HOA there. And I wanted to speak to you about a number of concerns that we currently have with the development, although Ray helpfully covered quite a bit of them. Most importantly, we don't feel like the problem of the second exit has been solved, and we feel like it's a very important piece of improving this site plan. And to further illustrate what Ray was saying, if the HOA is going to be responsible for this private road, HOAs are handed over from the developer to the residents once the development is complete. What methodology is in place to firmly keep the HOA from saying, you know what, paving, painting, pothole fixing, plowing, we don't want to do any of that. Our HOA doesn't want to fund it. So I'm just wondering what state law or what Cecil Township provision is in place to stop them from doing that. Because I know that in Maple Ridge, we started out as a private road, and now Cecil Township takes care of our road.
It was always intended. Maple Ridge is a planned residential development, so that was always the plan once
Okay.
they finished. That's the same with like Timber Run and the Overlook and all of our plans. They start out as private, but we are aware that during the, once they are done with the development and they will eventually be turned over to the township, we are stating as part of this development that we will not take over these roads. So
Okay.
the developer is aware of that. They could always come and petition the township and future boards to take it over, but there's no plan in place currently to do
Okay.
that.
What happens if the road falls into disrepair because the HOA is not taking care of it?
I mean, it would be the same as any other private roadway or house that falls into disrepair. It would go through the township process of code enforcement
Okay.
and things like
Thank
that.
you. So then the other thing that is of a real concern to the residents of Maple Ridge, particularly those of us who live on the backside of the development that's going to be butting up next to the townhouses, is that 50 feet just isn't enough. It is a very small amount of space, and I understand that they said it's going to be approximately 200 feet from building to building, but if that is entirely open space, and I understand it's not, it's 50 feet of trees, but as Ray mentioned, when the leaves are off of these trees, I mean, we're seeing straight through to huge swaths of mowed down trees. So they are building in our backyard. It is on top of us. 50 feet just isn't, it's not enough. And we, you know, Maple Ridge has been undisturbed since 2008. People thought that they were buying in a wooded area, and to have that entirely stripped away from us by no fault of our own is really unfair. So that's one of our other major concerns. And the last thing that we're really concerned about, especially with the upcoming construction, is the maintenance of Morganza Road. And I understand that that is a state-maintained road. However, the particular piece of roadway that basically this road is going to be dropping out onto overlooks sort of the all-clad factory. It has nearly collapsed 3 or 4 times, and they continue just slapping on another layer of asphalt and hoping that that Band-Aid is going to work. It is already cracking and dipping. Again, I drove over it tonight on the way here. There's a big crack right down the center of the road. So when we have how many more cars on this road, when we have earth movers on this road, how quickly is that going to fall in? If I were all-clad right now, I would be losing my mind that a state road is about to cave in on my factory. And our last concern, again, about this road is that it really is being dropped down on top of us. At the shift changes at All-Clad, it's a nightmare to get out of there right now. So we're gonna take another, what we said, 220-ish apartments, plus potentially another 70 townhouses. So let's just round it up to 300. Let's give them 2 cars per resident. 600 vehicles out on that road on top of us leaving, and I know that 2 cars per residence is actually generous based on the number of vehicles that come in and out of my neighborhood. So it's just not a fix. And I don't think that it is responsible of this board to approve this site plan until they get a real fix, even if the fix is they have to have a way out. But we've already been told that the other options for the way out are too steep. So what are the options then? And if there's no clear option, and they've said themselves they don't know, then I don't see how you guys in good conscience can approve this plan. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
That would
Thank
have
you.
to be something that is looked at. We've already mentioned that, you know, that basically how it lays right now is, you know, at least speaking for myself, I won't move forward with it. It has to be changed.
Thank you.
that's the reason I said about Merganza Road. It needs to be,
Yeah.
it's a state road, it needs to be repaired, even before this construction even starts. God, how many times have it slid away, like she said, in front of Clad Metals? And with all the excess traffic and all the building and so on, it's gotta be changed, it's gotta be fixed. Let's not go to be like Rising Road.
Yeah, PennDOT is just negligent in Washington County. I see it all over on these rural state 4-digit route numbers. Rising Road, Cecil Henderson Road, Merganza Road. I paved the road last week, Finleyville, Rama Road, Estate Road. The sores on the sides, the grates were deteriorated where people, if they walked along the road, would fall into them. They're just negligent to respond, to do improvements here in District 12. Good, sir.
Evening. My name's Dennis C. Sluchak. I'm a property owner to the east of this development that I border up against South Point Boulevard. I think most everybody on this board knows where my property's located. I'm right off of Grudovich Road. Present is Mr. Lewis that owns the Lewicki property. Combined, that's another 100 and some acres of property that would be developed only because of this development. My property's been in my family for well over 100 years, and I've spent 74 years there. My question is, you did all this feasibility study just for this 200 and some acre development. This development goes in, you sort of landlocked the Lewis property and the Sluchak property that we have no option but to use Grudovich Road, come out and hit Merganza Road. And you gentlemen pretty much know that that development there is only going to breed major investors looking at the Lewis property and the Sluchak property. Now, the Planning Commission, Cecil Township, have taken this into consideration of what it's going to take to develop this other 100 acres. Now, with the traffic and the sewage. If we don't have access to that sewage, Gun's are kind of really making it impossible to develop that property. And you know, that's once South Point went in, everything is you know, just keeps snowballing out. That's going to be a situation. It's not that I really want to develop it. May not even get developed in my lifetime, but the thing of it is, I think this needs to be somewhat considered, and the sewage. There's water, but sewage is another major factor. If the lines are designed big enough to take in 100 acres in that area and located where Lewis and Sluchak can get into it. So this is what I'm asking, and I should have been at the Planning Commission in bringing this up, but I missed the bus on that. But I'm here tonight. I'm bringing it to the township's attention. Now, I talked to you a little bit earlier, Mr. Haynes, that you said that you're not going to encroach on any of the private properties, on any of the improvement from South Point Boulevard past Grudovich Road, correct?
Our attention, yes. But to be clear, is that, first off, is that that is going to be, the study right now is done by the county. Larson Design is doing that intersection. I've spoken to Larson Design once. That, only time we interact with them is for the meeting of the two. But as it stands right now, the property that we need going up into South Point Boulevard, we are either own or that we have already acquired. So again, I don't have access to Larson's Design, and like I said, the county has that intersection right now. So to answer your question, I can't tell you everything, but as it looks right now, it doesn't seem as though we need it, because we can go on the other side of the street, as I told you, that we own.
Okay, so you're saying that I need to approach the county and express to them my concerns about traffic coming off of Grudovich Road into Morganza Road?
I mean, Mr.
Not
Snoop,
only now, but the future?
you can, of course. I think that you can more than talk to the county, and you should. Talk to the redevelopment authority and ask for a copy of the plans from Larson Design.
Well, the thing of it is, I run a heavy construction company out of there. We do a lot of heavy earth moving. We run low boys and triaxles in and out of that Grudovich Road. When they put in the South Point Boulevard, if you notice, Grudovich Road, they widened that section of Grudovich where it entered Morganza Road, and gave me adequate access to take heavy low boys, 50 to 100-ton low boys, out of Grudovich onto Morganza, onto 79, South Point Boulevard. Now, I heard rumor that I would not be able to make a left-hand turn to go to South Point Boulevard out of Grudovich. I could only make a right-hand turn. Where am I going to go? You know, a lot of my business is going to the right turn because of Peters Township and the property I own in South Park.
The left-hand turn.
No, to take my heavy trucks and equipment, I'd have to make a right. Go down
Oh, I see.
Morganza Road, West McMurray Road, because I've got a 150-acre development in South Park.
Why don't we do this? I can help you get the design from Larson, and we can sit down and we can look at it, and we can try to address your questions.
Okay, what about in the sewers and everything?
I'd have to look at the plans. I don't know if, the sewers are the sewers. They're going where they're going, and when, you can see them on the site plan here. The green is the sewer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you can see the green on the site plan there. And actually, you can see that it abuts Mr. Haisong Lewis's property.
Yeah, well, I didn't really.
Right there, you see?
Okay, the green is sewage?
So
To be fair, Mr.
Does it have
Chairman,
the
we're
size
taking
line
the
that is?
time of people discussing something we have no control over.
Danny, can you wrap it up here
Yeah.
in a minute? You've gone beyond your 3 minutes. Can you wrap it up in a minute?
Sluchak, we can talk offline.
Okay.
Okay?
I know, I just thought, there was another gentleman who was up here first, was way over time.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there was interruptions in between. So.
Okay, so you heard enough from me, get off the mic, right?
Yeah, give someone else an opportunity. Thanks, Denny.
We will be talking, okay?
Cindy Mazinski. It's spelled Moszynski. We live at 543 Morganza Road. Just have a question. How far back is the lane going to come from Lewicki back Morganza towards Maple Ridge?
You mean, just make sure I'm clear.
It's a turning lane, you said you're, oh, I'm sorry.
Are you saying the road
We live on
expansion?
Morganza, so from Lewicki back towards,
The
how,
road-
where is the turning lane? How far are they going to be?
Oh, the turning lane's right here,
So how far back is it going to come on Morganza?
right to there.
Okay,
Am I right or no?
No. That's shaded as all the paving that's gonna be done, so
so that's my house.
the turn lane starts up here.
So it's right, it's
Is that your house right there?
It is.
Yeah, the turn lane starts after your driveway.
Okay, so that's interesting. So that is definitely a concern of mine because now I guess you're gonna have to, but you may not be on my property, you may be on the other side, or you may be on mine, but getting in and out is gonna be really challenging. Would you not say that's true? Additionally, and I don't have any say in this, my mailbox is across the street. So now I've gotta go across 3 lanes to get my mail each day. So you can see where this would be somewhat of a concern to us.
So you are correct, is that, oops, you are correct, Mr. Shinsky, that we are building, the road is widening on the other side of the street, so we are not going near your property, or
Well,
say
but
near.
you are
We're not going near, but
affecting
we're-
me.
we're not using any of your property.
Yes, you're going on your property on the other side.
Correct.
I figured that that was the case. But again, so are you going to be able to contact the Postal Service and have something done for me? I'm thinking probably not, so that's where my concern is.
Just to be clear, the design drawings do show the turn lane starting after your driveway. So
So I have to go across the street
you
and
don't have
up.
you don't have 3 full lanes there. So it wouldn't be 3 lanes there. It starts right after your driveway.
But at Anderson Lane, which your folks own as well, that's where our mailboxes are. So it is across, it's down further. So again, it is going to be a problem. So I just wanted to express that.
Are you willing to do anything to try, I mean, I see the concern of crossing 3 lanes of traffic to get to a mailbox.
3 lanes or 2?
I mean, even 2 lanes, if you have massive amounts of traffic coming in.
I mean, that's something that if moving, I'm not sure what goes into moving a mailbox, but, we could definitely speak and work with Ms. Majinski to help her find, solution to that problem. If it's just moving a mailbox, as I said, I don't know how that works to move one, but, I mean, we can
It's
definitely
not
help.
something you can just do. I do already know that because that was already a discussion last time you went around with that. So I don't know how difficult, it's already a challenge to do it now. And again, I realize you don't think that's probably a big deal.
Well, it's a big deal to you,
But
but
it is a big deal
So,
because-
yeah.
It's a small act to show that you're willing to try to help her.
We're more than willing to help as much as we can. So, yeah, we'll speak with Ms. Majinski and see what so we'll see, see if we can help.
I am Ella Mazzoni, M-A-Z-Z-O-N-I. I live at 286 Maple Ridge. Looking at this map just made me come up with a question. All this retail, I didn't know there'd be this many plots of retail. Will they all have parking lots with parking lot lights on all night?
Not all night.
Because it'll really lighten up that area.
I don't think it'll be
A
all
lot.
night. But again, we don't know what's going, all we're looking for is to say that there's going to be, it will be retail. Is it going to be parking lights on 24 hours? I don't believe so. That makes no sense. I think that, again, just using it as an example, a Target, right? A Target's not going to have lights on 24 hours.
Sure?
Yep.
I think they do.
They'll have like 1 or 2 security lights, but they don't have every single light bulb going in the parking lot.
We'll keep our fingers crossed.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Crystal Painter, Painter. I live at 220 Maple Ridge. And I just wanted to say that I also have the concerns about the schools and the roads as well. When I brought those concerns up at the meeting that we had in Maple Ridge, I was told that not everyone will have a child. And I was also told that not everyone will have cars. So that was their response to me. And then I also asked, because my house butts right up to the hill, and so I asked what will happen if, you know, land starts getting moved and trees start falling down on the houses, or, you know, big rocks or anything like that. And they said that our HOA would cover it. Our HOA is crap. So our HOA won't cover it. It will be up to the homeowners to cover it. And I asked if they had a plan B. They do not. So they're just kind of hoping that, you know, God is good and that nothing bad happens.
Would like to clarify, I'm certain that I would never say or try to say where liability lies. That's something that.
Absolutely did. You and we had a conversation.
I know we had an
Yeah.
in-depth conversation.
And then I also asked about the road, and you said, oh, I lived here before. I know how bad the traffic
And
is.
when
But
I
you
say- I
don't
do.
know how bad the traffic
And-
is.
But with respect, I don't want to get into back and forth, but with respect to the cars, I said that not everyone's going to have two cars, I said. But anyways, I appreciate your.
Yeah. So I just want you guys to know that that's how they actually treat everybody, is they don't actually care about us. They care about the money, and that's it.
Thank you.
I'm back real quick on this conditional use that you had up on the screen earlier. The intersection of Grudovich Road and Morganza Road. You stated that that I'd have to take it up with the county, but that they were not restricting traffic from Grudovich Road to make a left turn. Right here on this drawing, you put up on there, states, no left turns.
From Grudovich Road.
Pardon me?
From Grudovich Road?
Yes.
Like I said, I said, that's Larson Design. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
So, like I said, we can talk with the county, but we can design this
well, the thing of it is, your development.
Well, you guys have to,
I know.
yeah. We can't hear you for the record, and honestly, this is an offline discussion. This isn't something that directly impacts the majority of the residents.
Anyone else from the audience? Comment?
My name's Tony Mosinski, M-O-S-Z-Y-N-S-K-I, but they usually just say Tony Mo. So the reason why I have some concerns here, let my wife go first, but we had some concerns because our property, we have about 10 acres almost at the intersection of Lewicki Road and Morganza Road. And was mentioned there's going to be 4 lanes, 3 different ways, and it's going to affect our property. And a while back, it was determined that even on your site plan here, it shows the blue, whatever that kind of a thing is, that was a wetlands right there at that intersection. So no discussion was concerned how they were going to handle that, if they were going to avoid it, what they were going to do about it. However, it is a very immediately up against Lewicki Road and also Morganza Road. There's also a stream that goes, starting at that point, it goes all the way down through Cool Valley and along Morganza Road. Hence the name Cool Valley, because of that stream. That stream, nothing's been said about how are you going to put 3-4 lanes. I know they say they're going into the other side, but there's also water on the other side of the road as well. Not just on this side, but it's on the other side as well. I know because the water runs down off of that hillside at Anderson Lane and it washes out the road. Everybody who has traveled there when a heavy rain, now finally they fixed some of that. But that means it needs more attention as well in the future. I just want to say, as I said before in the past, I'm not against change or improvement for the community. That's great. But cross your T's, dot your I's, do it the right way, And this is a private affair. This should not be at the cost of all the other residents that are in the township. Also, another thing too that has come to my attention is the fact that I live right next to all the 165 acres of trees that were cut down. And I heard a lot of strange rumors about why that was done. To get rid of bats, so they wouldn't have a home to live in, and that sort of thing. I don't know if it's true or not, but anyways, that's a strange story that has been floating around. Also, another thing, if I was going to be living over there in those townhomes and you have a gated community right there all the time having a fob, let me put it this way. Let's say all the people of Maple Ridge, hey, listen, in order to get in and out now, you're gonna have to have a fob. How do you think that would go over? 0. So the thing is my point is, it's gotta be ways around it, but I don't think that is the answer to that. So those are some different things that have been on my mind, and it's also gonna cut into my property immensely. No matter what you do, it's going to affect our property and also our sewage, our septic system, our utilities, our driveway. There's a bridge right there. You're gonna have to do something about that bridge. So there's a lot of different things. That's why it's a state-maintained road. And are you gonna work with them to make this right or not? So there's some things that are on my mind. You can answer how you want, but they are of concern to me. Again, not against change, but let's do it right.
Thank you, Tony. If my memory serves me correctly, John, I think the last time you were before us, either 2-3 years ago, this was an issue of some wetlands. And have you addressed any of this?
Yes, we have, and Keith can give detail, but yes, we have.
Some of the area that is being talked about is right here at the intersection of Merganza and the Wiki. The old plan had a stream relocation and impact to the wetlands. If you can see a difference now. There's actually no improvements that are coming down this side, so that existing stream is not going to be impacted in any wetlands right there. There'll be minimal impacts right here at the corner where the improvements are going to be made. And if you can see the grading right here, all the improvements were moved to this side, and that's why you see the grading here, because there had to be additional grading when the improvements were moved to the other side of the road. So a lot of this area is not going to be impacted, all the blue areas with the streams and the wetlands. And then there is a crossing right here, so that culvert is going to be improved so all the water flows through there appropriately. And then on the other side, the stream downstream is going to stay intact. So the impact here is going to be at the crossing instead of the way it was before. Prior, it was this entire stream was going to be impacted on this side of the road.
Thank you.
One last thing about that. The reason why I mention that is such a concern. Water doesn't just magically go away. It continues to flow. No matter what you want to do, it is going to be there, and it causes problems. It will cause problems to your roads, cause it to fall away. It will cause other different things. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of concern. That's why the EPA and all these people look into it, because it has a big impact. Even though it's a small thing, have a big impact on the roadways for the future.
And part of that is the DEP is going to reviewing our permit related to streams and wetlands. So that's all going to be coordinated, and there's going to be oversight on any impact that's going to take place. But, you know, like I said before, the impact that we had previously on the plan has been greatly reduced. And related to the water flow, we're required to do hydraulic and hydrology studies to determine, you know, what improvements are needed. You know, that obviously was done for the culvert, and the improvements are going to be made there that are appropriate, and any other drainage improvements that have to be made. So, you know, it was mentioned several times that, you know, this is like the master plan, and, you know, it's the early part of approvals, and there's still a lot of detail and other things that we'll be bringing to show all the detail on how all the improvements are going to be done appropriately.
I wanted to ask one other thing, and again, I know this seems so silly because it's our driveway, but the bridge abutment is on the left of our driveway, and the bridge abutment that you're going to be dealing with on the other side is directly across from our driveway. So again, when you go to do all these changes, that seems to me that it's possibly going to affect me coming in and out of my driveway. So that, you know, of course, that would make for great concern on our part is how are we going to function, because that's probably not a couple of day project.
And associated with that, anytime improvements are done, there's always traffic control plans that are done, maintenance and protection of traffic, so lanes are maintained, so people have access, appropriate barricades are put up. So it's not just the design drawings, it's also what they call maintenance and protection of traffic during the construction phase.
Good evening. I'm Jason Painter, Painter. I live at 220 Maple Ridge Drive. I just have a few concerns.
Jason, if you could adjust the mic, it's just tough to hear you.
I just have a few concerns about the roadway. One is the fob issue coming in off of Morganza. Do you have a plan to build the gate away from the road so cars or whoever waiting to turn into development aren't blocking the roadway also? Or even like buses for schools, would they have fobs as well?
So, you know, I think that if there were going to be buses, again, I think that the kids would walk to the bottom of the hill. I don't have the parents, because, you know, we have a similar situation at Summit Station, which is where we did in South Park, where we did a development where, you know, we have homes that go up on the hill, and the bus stops at the clubhouse. It does not go, the school bus does not go all the way up into the community. It stops at the clubhouse, and the parents they all sit at the clubhouse at 3 o'clock or so, and they pick up their kids, or there's somebody there to take the kids home. So, we've done that part before, yes.
Okay, but, well, I'm saying, will the gate be built far enough off the roadway so it doesn't impede traffic on Morganza?
Yeah, of course, yes.
Okay. Also, with the retail development up there, you have no idea what stores are going in there at all, right?
I'm not at liberty to say.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the traffic study that you've done would have to incorporate those stores into the study because, you know, let's say a Walmart has a bigger draw than a Home Goods or something like that. So is that something that's been incorporated into your traffic study?
Yeah, so before when I was describing how the traffic study's done and all the different uses that could be a potential, so the uses that are likely for the site, they're studied, and we have decades of data of how much like a Walmart or other retail use or other uses would generate. So the uses and the traffic associated with them are pretty conservative, you know, so it all works in the future. So it's the exact, like John said, maybe the exact tenant isn't known for every pad, but there's studies done to take retail and office and, you know, townhouses and all those uses and incorporate that into the study to make sure the traffic works appropriately.
You've taken a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we apply peak hour, and then
Okay.
we design by that.
So also with the increase in retail and occupancy and all that, is public safety considered? Will more police be hired, more firefighters? That would be a cost for the township too. When it comes to putting retail in, that means an increase in crime and such, and crashes obviously when it comes to traffic. So I would imagine the township has to consider hiring more public safety officers and such.
He brings up a really valid point that I think you guys need to take a look at that I hadn't quite honestly thought about is if it's peak everybody's coming home from work going into the townhouses and every single person has to swipe a key fob coming in, you're going to have cars backing up onto Morganza Road because every single person's going to have to stop, press a button or swipe a key fob and then come in.
So it may not be a key fob. So to give you an example is that, you know, maybe it's the sticker on the back of your car window that hits the light, that gets you 20, 30 feet beforehand. The gate opens up and you go.
But it's still taking time. Like, it's not going to be a direct flow of traffic. You're still going to have people pausing for a second to let gates open. So I'm just asking you, I'm not saying I have the right answer. I'm just saying this is something that you need to consider in future iterations of this development, is that a key fob and an exit onto and off of Morganza Road might not be the right answer.
No, it's definitely a good comment, and the queue lengths will be considered in the appropriate location. The nice thing about this plan is coming off of Merganza Road, we can have a long queue length, so we can do whatever we need because it's a long length up to the townhouses. So I don't see any problem with positioning a gate there. And at the other location near the gas line, we anticipate, we talk about where the gates are going to be. And then I did show a cul-de-sac because we have to consider, are there going to be any people who come down here to the gate and want to turn around? So the factors of how traffic could potentially move and the things that have to be considered to compensate that all goes into the engineering.
What about going with like a cul-de-sac down at the end, the other end by the emergency exit, maybe bringing the road out by Cedar Lane, so that you have residential entry and exit there, and then, then the people in the townhouses down in the front there would only go down there if you live there. So there's gonna be no, it would be an emergency exit if it need be, but you wouldn't have to worry about a gate, you wouldn't have to worry about a turnaround up there. You could put the cul-de-sac at the end down on the Morganza Road side. I think that kind of solves everybody's problems, and then you have access for the apartments and everybody to get out by Cedar Lane. You just gotta make sure that there's enough there where the gas line flows down through.
He means here. Like, if you,
Yeah, right where the
right
pointer is-
between the
Right
apartments.
where the pointer is right now, maybe bring something down for an entry and exit there, where it's away.
We looked at that, and that's a huge, drop off.
Yeah, we did look at this, and there was a really steep slope in this location. So we considered, that location, but just coming down here from this point to this point, it was a pretty steep road, and that's why we're looking at this location. But this location was the original one. It was identified for emergency access too, but I think you're talking about right here, correct?
Yeah, that's where I'd be looking at, even if it's something where it, swerves down through there. It doesn't have to necessarily be a direct shot where it comes down to where it's too steep. Maybe make it a couple cutbacks or something in there just so that it takes the grade away. I just think it would be an easier access for everybody if that was the case. And then you also are creating a little bit more of a roadway for people to get in and out. If you would sway it back and forth a little bit there, it gives a little bit more, to where if people back up, they're not going all the way down into the retail location or,
It would have been, that actually would have been our druthers. We wanted to, and I think we brought this up the last.
Can you talk into the microphone?
Sorry about that. So we did, I think we spoke about this the last time, but, that would have been an optimal choice, or not optimal, but a really good choice to put the road like right here, as you said. But, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but you could see, that's why we're not building there. See that?
He's talking higher
I'm
up.
talking up by the gas line.
Yeah.
Like right here?
Like to come out right where
Yeah.
So
right between
actually-
the two plans.
Yeah. So we did look at an option for that location, and it was difficult to meet some of the township road requirements with the switchbacks. That's something that, the township would have to consider as far as a road design, what would be acceptable. But, we came off the end of the development. It flowed better out of the development, and we could meet the curve and tangent lengths in this location. It was more challenging to do it up
Dan,
here.
would it meet, what would be the requirements if it remains a private road?
The board could waive for a private road, the board could waive requirements that are in the subdivision.
That's what I'm
ordinance.
thinking.
So if it was gonna be a private road, you could do something more steep or have greater horizontal curves or,
Mhm. Okay.
It would alleviate to all clad Maple Ridge and that whatever you're gonna call this Cool Valley townhomes or whatever, all coming out into the same location too. There'd be a significant amount of roadway between the two exits. So I know you don't have the answer tonight, but Supervisor Schifoni's right. I definitely think that's something that needs to be looked into.
Okay.
Any other comments from the audience?
A couple things to point out. I know we're doing master plan. You're not really starting anything. We haven't done land development yet, but I know I've talked to some residents in Maple Ridge who aren't here tonight. And dust mitigation and noise mitigation are two things that are very important to them. I would make sure to prepare in your next iteration of plans that you have clear-cut plans for how you're going to mitigate noise and clear-cut plans for how you're going to mitigate dust.
That was one of the reasons I was asking about time frame earlier also, just so we know how long it's going to impact the current residents that are there, you know, from start to finish.
And related to the mitigation measures, like we talked about, this is a master plan stage of the project, but our plans include detailed measures on how to mitigate for different factors that can be disruptive. And we also look at the township ordinance, you know, because there's nuisance regulations that we have to comply with. There's work hour comply. So all those things that are either in the ordinance or that are good practices or practices mandated by DEP. DEP has a lot of mandated practices for dust control. So we incorporate all that into the design.
I would just make sure when you come back, you can clearly articulate to the residents what your plans are.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come in and say, we're gonna follow DEP standards. Tell them what those DEP standards are.
Okay.
My name is Gene Leonard. My wife and I have lived in Maple Ridge now for about a year. I know there's a history of coal mining in this area. Have you had a chance to examine underground mining, and will it impact on this?
Yeah, so there was detailed core borings done on the site that go very deep underground. There is some coal located in this area, and as far as there wasn't any underground mining that was determined to be a potential impact to the development, so there's no mitigation measures that are required. A lot of times, you know, a lot of people are familiar with a rule of thumb, like if a mine's 0 to 100 feet, there could be potential severe impact. 100 to 200, it could be moderate, and over 300, there usually isn't any impact at all. So the only impact we have related to any type of mining whatsoever is there is a small amount of coal located right there.
I've noticed the dip on Morganza that I understand has been repeated and repeated, which to me suggests there might be a mine under that has caved in.
Yeah, the dip that people mentioned, after we had the one meeting, I did drive down the road and I saw where they repaired the road. And I personally can't do anything about it because, you know, that's a PennDOT road, but I did say that I would mention it to PennDOT during our process, so I can do what I can do to mention about this being a problem.
There isn't just a mine there. That suggests there may be others.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a thought.
It looks like there's a slope problem there, yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments from the floor? Board members, anything?
This is an illustrative plan right now.
Darling, can you talk? I don't think they can hear you.
This is an illustrative plan right now. What becomes binding tonight and what is deferred to the individual site plan approvals? And if this project stalls again, as it did for over a decade, what protects the township from a half-built site or expired commitment?
I can, given an act of God or something, given a serious, we have to, you know, given the grants that we have to put bonds up and things of that nature to complete the site and the road work. So we're not gonna put up those bonds and then not finish and then have those bonds taken away.
What, you
So in
didn't,
other words, you're giving us your word that it's gonna move forward as long as it adheres to what we want.
I don't know about, wait. We are going to move forward with Cool Valley Development. We are going to work with the township. We're asking for approval for the illustrative site plan. And yes, we are going to move forward. Now, what we want is what got me. Because, I mean, I can't say, what your wants are and where we end up. I mean, I don't want to get into that. But I'm just saying that what we have here is what we intend to build.
So, Darlene, maybe I'll take a better shot at it. From this point forward, all this plan represents is the use on the site. They would have to then come in with detailed plans related to grading, stormwater, subdivision of land, establishment of right-of-ways, all those sorts of things, which you would review, get to see again.
And especially the roads.
Yeah, and at that point in time, the solicitor would prepare a detailed development agreement like we do with every other project, and there'd be required financial security and all those things. So we're that's way down the path. And there would be a number of conditions within there that they have to meet, including all the offsite improvements and other things that have to occur. So again, that's where you would rely upon Gretchen and I to make sure that the assurance is that if they start this, that there's every provision within the law allowed by the township to make sure that they finish.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I think the question before the board tonight is whether we close this hearing or whether we keep it open pending some of the open items.
Well, I mean, after listening to testimony tonight from my fellow board members, the applicant, the residents of Cecil Township, I've determined that this hearing should be continued. I've been an advocate my whole life of pre-job planning and scheduling. I'm a road builder for 47 years. When I go to work every day, I know what I'm going to do. If I don't, I find out. And there's a lot of unanswered questions here tonight. So I feel, John, I mean, you aren't ready yet to come forward with this. I have major safety concerns as a resident and my fellow board members. These intersections, like that one at the bottom, that emergency road being that close to Maple Ridge Drive, and then all clad across the street, as Supervisor Schifoni said, that's just an accident waiting to happen. So my determination is hearing it will be continued at a later date, and the board members here will decide on that, but I think we need to do a lot more work, John.
So, and I appreciate that, Councilman, but, here's our concern, is that, Councilwoman Barney asked us, are you going to proceed? This is going to be $100 million that, we're stroking a large part of that check for, and as we continue on as we keep on doing these things, it's costing us more and more. And, the access road that we put in, that was at the request, to turn it to give a full second exit. That was at the request of council, of the township. And we have gone above and beyond to get this far with PennDOT, to get them to give us, ideas with traffic studies on how far, and you're a road guy, as you just said, Councilman, you know that PennDOT doesn't move fast, and we have gotten PennDOT somehow to move mountains to give us what we have so far on this road. Now, we don't have the exact answers because, you were only just asked to turn this, turn this into a full road not that long ago. And, we do have an idea, a very good, I don't want to say definitive idea, but we have a very good idea how this works. And do I have a definitive answer? And has PennDOT given their definitive answer? No. But, that road was done for, at the township's request. And, we will have it done, and we're not going to be able to build without your approval on this.
I have a compromise suggestion. So what if we continue the hearing to August 3rd at 6 p.m., which is before our August board meeting? Answer our questions. I have them written down. If you don't know what they are, what the residents say, we can sit down. If you come back prepared, August 3rd at 6 p.m. at our 7 p.m. meeting, it can be on the agenda for a vote. I think that's a fair compromise. We can't vote tonight anyways. So it's a fair compromise. It gives you the opportunity to give us the answers to the questions that we're looking for, but it gives you the opportunity to receive a vote in that same night, should you be prepared.
So here's my question, and I would like to, can we define prepared? I don't, are we gonna have, PennDOT's sign off on this intersection by August 3rd?
I don't
No.
think that's what we're not asking for. I can read, so some of the things that I wrote down, you have to clear, let me go back and see. So a clear understanding of the 50-foot buffer, clarification on this exit onto Morganza Road. Can it be moved to Cedar Lane like Supervisor Schifoni suggested? The Mojinski's mailbox, clarification on how many cars, whether you're going to allow just the townhomes from lot. I don't have my glasses on.
So that's gonna definitely be something that PennDOT will give us the answer on and that we need to submit, and Keith can.
I think Keith can work some magic and get us an answer. You can have a good idea of whether or not you're just going to allow the second half at townhomes, or whether or not you're going to be able to allow the apartments and the townhomes to come off onto that road in a month. I think I have faith. I've been doing this long enough to know you can have a pretty definitive answer in a month. Let me look back through and see.
Cindy, what about the water?
That's what's on my list. The water, the wetlands
those
issue.
creeks on both sides of the road.
The
But
wet.
those gonna be, as Keith said, that's definitely, DEP is not gonna let us touch a stream without, doing some sort of mitigation. That's what the NIFTY's putting, and Keith can speak to this. We're not, any stream that we touch, that's why we went out of our way not to touch any, because it's incredibly burdensome when you touch a stream, incredibly burdensome.
So just get us some assurances. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for a set in stone plan. We understand this is an illustrative site plan. We're asking for assurances that it will be addressed, and something that can go on the record to assure our residents that we've asked these questions and you've given us an answer. Sorry, let me go. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Can you give us an answer? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Could I just ask a question about that?
Yeah, please.
So if we provide H&H study information, that would be enough to
Correct.
say, okay, the culvert works.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. That's exactly what we're looking for. Anything else, board members? But I think that's a fair compromise. We can't vote for tonight anyways. It gives you an hour to we don't need to go through the whole plan all over again. We can just address the questions. The board will advertise it as a vote at our public meeting at 7 p.m. If you've answered all the questions or not, the board will take a public vote at 7 p.m. that evening.
And you'll send us.
Supervisor Giese, are you good with that?
Yep, fine.
You good? Supervisor Barney, are you good with that? Darlene, are you good with that? 6 p.m. Okay.
So just, will you email me the questions so we'll both have the same set of expectations, so we're on the same page?
Yes, I will send you my notes.
One other thing, and this might be off the record, but there was a lake up there on Lewicki Road. The lake.
A lake.
Right
Yes,
here.
the lake that was on Lewicki Road.
We're not doing anything in that area.
That's just staying the way it is. Because that's really wetlands and cattails and everything else, correct?
As I
Okay.
said, DEP we're doing our utmost to do the least amount of, least intrusive as possible when it comes to wetlands.
Okay.
So if there's I make a motion, Supervisor Giese, that we continue this hearing to August 3rd at 6 p.m.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. This hearing is adjourned for this evening.
One more.
Here. I didn't say.